All right, I just want to be clear. There's a lot of you that feel neglected and abandoned in your relationships, and some of the advice I've given, people have taken that to mean that I think the only option is leaving. I just want to be clear that's not what I believe. Now, if you want to leave because you felt neglected and abandoned and unloved and invalidated for so long, I'm not going to beg you to stay either. Because usually by that point, the marriage is filled with bitterness and resentment and hatred and neglect. And once they become the enemy in your mind, that's very hard to come back from. Not impossible, just harder. And make no mistake, it will take work from both of you to heal this thing. And once you've reached that point, most people don't have anything left to give. At that stage, the relationship dies whether you stay together or not. That's why I'm doing everything I can to intercept couples who are starting on that path and don't realize it before it's too late. But there are a lot of you that do want to stay. You want your relationship to move towards healthy. And even though you feel like you've given everything you have, you're willing to sacrifice a little bit more if there's hope at the end of this struggle. And I absolutely believe there is hope. But if either spouse says, I just don't know what to do, I've asked them to care about my needs, they told me it's not their problem. I've asked them to prioritize me, they won't. I've asked them to go to counseling, they said no. I've tried to express my feelings, they said, not my responsibility. If that's you, I think the best way for your relationship to succeed and eventually thrive is first you need to realize you don't have a relationship with your spouse. You might have a marriage certificate. That doesn't make a relationship. Relationships are built on trust. Trust says, I can depend on this person emotionally, physically, sexually. Trust says, we're a team. Yes, we disagree at times. We even hurt each other at times, unintentionally, but we repair, we reconnect, we repent. If you don't have that, you don't have a sustainable relationship. If you feel chronically dismissed and invalidated and ignored and neglected, if you feel like they don't even care about your legitimate needs of closeness and friendship and respect and affection, that's not a partnership. Those aren't optional. They're not add-ons. They are what makes a relationship healthy and sustainable. The absence of them is neglect, regardless of which spouse ignores them. It's not sustainable. Does that mean you get a divorce tomorrow? No. It means you realize your current dynamic isn't sustainable. Because it's not. Something has to change. So how do we move forward? By first recognizing that there are things that make relationships healthy. There are things that love requires from us. Anyone can get married. Anyone can say they love someone else. Few know how to stay married or how love is truly demonstrated. And we can all do a better job at learning about those things. I had one person say, yeah, but counseling is so expensive and time-consuming. So is divorce. There are things that only harm and hurt and destroy our relationships. Stop tolerating them in yourself and in your partner. No, you can't change them, but you can begin to recognize and place healthy boundaries around toxic behaviors that only hurt the marriage. And some of you that say, well, they don't care. They won't go to counseling. They won't read a book with me. They mock me and make fun of me when I talk about my feelings. That's not a sustainable situation. That's not compatible with relationships succeeding. And sometimes in certain situations, when it's appropriate, after you've discussed it with a pastor or counselor, you need to leave. Not necessarily get divorced, but leave. And before you leave, you look them right in the eye and you say, I love you, but I have to leave this environment. It's not healthy for our marriage. You've refused to talk with a pastor or a counselor. You've refused to read any books on how we can connect better or grow as a couple. I'm ready to fight for this marriage whenever you are, but I'm not going to fight alone. And then you leave because a lot of you are scared of being alone. But what you forget is that you're already alone in this marriage. And sometimes your spouse has abandoned this marriage even though they're still in it. That's why you feel like even when they're around, they're not present, are they? And I don't want your marriage to end, even if you feel neglected right now. I'm not necessarily in the camp that wants you to get a divorce unless there's abuse. I want your marriage to thrive and be what you need and deserve. But you both have to start over completely or this thing won't work. You both have to learn and commit to new patterns of behavior instead of what you defaulted to before. The dynamic has to change. It has to. Nothing changes if nothing changes. And we can change the dynamic towards healthy. That doesn't mean they're going to respond. But we can give this thing a real fighting chance by admitting and learning about where we went wrong with our resentment or criticism or blame or attachment styles or unhealthy expectations or lack of real vulnerability. And then we can hold them accountable to their destructive behaviors that only hurt us and the marriage. It's possible because I'm a result of it. I'll be praying for you and your marriage.